personal story with you, because I think sometimes it is important to see the person behind the politician and the reason why I am here. And then I will tell you very shortly 3 things I am focusing on in the Dutch parliament. But firstly, about me. Why about me? I am not born in the Netherlands. I think when I look in the room, I'm one of the few people who really is from a dangerous region. I am born in Afghanistan, Kabul. As you understand, this was a sad summer for me. But my dad is born in Iran, in Tehran. And he met my mom in Kabul because he had to flee his country. He was just a boy when he had to go into hiding. He had to because the regime was threatening him and his family. 2 family members of mine were killed in the early 80s. Killed without a fair trial. Only killed because they stood up for freedom. My father never had the opportunity to say goodbye to his mom. He didn't even see her anytime again. In fact, but I know you all understand this, he can never go back to the country he was born. I can never go there. And this regime, you know this is so dangerous. They make sure, even now when I'm member of parliament, to give us the message that they see us as an enemy of Iran. But I'm not afraid. But why am I telling you this? For not 1 second do I think that my family history can be compared to the history of the Jewish people. No. But I do think I can understand, maybe a little bit better than other European citizens, what it means to have the feeling to always being persecuted because of who you are, because of what you think. Am I afraid? No. But let me mention, my father is living with protection for almost 20 years. I received protection in the Netherlands because of my opinions. So I can understand, at least I think I can understand, how the Jewish people, the Jewish society in Europe, how they feel at this moment. Not having the certainty of a safe future. So this is why I'm here. Because for me, fighting and combating anti-Semitism, it's fundamental for me. Of course, I do a lot of things in the Dutch parliament. But this is essential because when my parents came to Holland, they tried to understand the history of the European continent. And they taught me that the ground where I am standing, the liberty and freedom I have, I cannot take for granted. A lot happened here in Europe almost 75, 76 years ago. And I do not know if you realize this, but today, in 1923, Hitler and General Ludendorff tried the famous overthrowing of the Weimar Republic. This was today, in 1923. And we know what happened after this and the tragic events. So for me, fighting anti-Semitism, it's a mission. I feel it as an obligation. So what am I trying to do in Parliament? I focus now on 3 things. You know, as a politician, it's always better to focus on 2 or 3 things, so the chance you can make it through Parliament is much bigger. First of all, what is really important is having a national coordinator on anti-Semitism. Yes, I know some people ask the question, what is this person going to do? Well, it is fundamental. Every country should have a national coordinator. Why? Because if you want change, you have to start inside the government, inside the executive branch. You need to have someone who can have an overview of all different policies that the government is making and putting his hand up, saying, look, we have an issue with anti-Semitism, can we implement it here? Or why haven't you thought of this? Or why haven't you thought of that? So for me, the national coordinator is really important, and I'm fighting in the parliament, in a positive way, of course, to make sure that the national coordinator is being funded by the government. The second thing, which I think is really important, and I'm working on in the Dutch parliament, is the registration of the police. When I speak to Jewish people in Holland, a lot of time, a lot of occasions, they tell me, look, we don't go to the police. I ask them why. And the answer is saddening, because the police is not taking the registration of an anti-Semitic incident. They're taking the registration of violence, insult, vandalism. Yes, all right, that is the case. But it is really important, it is fundamental, what we are speaking about, all of us today. The police need to make the registration. Yes, this was an insult, or this was a death threat, but it was with an anti-Semitic character. And then, because if we do not register this, how can we know how big the problem is? We know in this room the problem is big. But it is important for all of the public, that is my work as a politician, to explain to the people that anti-Semitism is not a problem of the past, it is a problem of today, and it will be a problem in the future. So police registration. And it's not easy, but I am fighting for it. And then, of course, thirdly, is prosecution. When you can conclude and you have the evidence that an incident occurred with an anti-Semitic character, of course the public prosecution should prosecute with a circumstance which will result in a heavier sentence. Because if you do not do this, where is the message to your society that if you are guilty in any form of anti-Semitism, that you will be punished? This is so important, because if you do not prosecute, so you have to register, this starts with the police, but then you have to prosecute. Because otherwise, a lot of beautiful words I have heard today, they can be empty. They are beautiful, but you need to have strong law enforcement. To conclude, my distinguished listeners, one thing is going through my mind all of the evening, and that was the question of Rabbi Margolin. I hope I pronounce it right. And you asked the question, is there a future for Jewish people in Europe? Is there a future for the Jewish life? Let me be very frankly here. Yes, you have a future in Europe. Yes, there is a future for Jewish life in Europe. But that's not the only part of my answer. Yes, you have a future, and you will have a safe future. That is our obligation, our moral obligation to the Jewish people. And I'm only one of 150 members of parliament in the Netherlands. But I promise you, I will give it everything I can, everything in my power, to make sure that there is a wonderful Jewish future in Europe. Thank you so much.
I must thank you not only on the three things you are focusing on, but the spirit you are bringing. It's amazing. Thank you so much. And as we said before, last but not least, the next young and brilliant gentleman speaks fluent English, fluent French, fluent Dutch, and Hebrew. But surely after the interview with Mr. Pancini from YouTube, I believe he speaks fluent best than some of us, the most important language there is now, the language of the youngsters. Ethan Bergman, go flag yourself.
Thank you very much for having me. It's going to be very difficult to follow up on the wonderful words of MP Elian. Sounded like a Braveheart speech, to be quite honest. So I'll be brief as well. First of all, I'm very honored to be in your presence today. My name is Ethan Bergman, the Youth Development and Creative Projects Officer at the European Jewish Association. I'm here to emphasize, along with other Jewish youth, that hate and anti-Semitism have morphed as it always does throughout history. The biggest challenge today, ladies and gentlemen, is the legitimization and carte blanche provided in regards to the promotion of hate, misinformation, and conspiracy theories throughout the digital landscape. In the age of digital warfare, it is essential to grasp the complexities of what can be openly promoted. Some publications and social media accounts are proudly promoting content that in theory and practice transgress the rules and regulations of online platforms. There will always be content that automatic content scanners cannot spot. Most people do not understand Jews outside of simplistic contexts as supposed victims during the Holocaust and supposed aggressors in the Middle East. The gap in the middle needs to be filled, and it's only young people like us that can do something like this. Most people do not understand the dynamic notion of what anti-Semitism can consist of. Shockingly, some of the aforementioned famous social media accounts that masquerade their content as activism and insight have more followers and subscribers than there are Jewish people on earth. It is undeniable that the latest Israel-Hamas conflict in May has affected Jews in the diaspora as well. And the Trojan horse that caused such hate to transpire is indeed social media. Here are some stats related to this. On Twitter, 17,000 Hitler was right tweets were posted in the span of a single week. The hashtag COVID-1948, in reference to the creation of the State of Israel, was among the top trending topics in a dozen countries, alongside Jew flu in referencing to COVID. 80% of Holocaust-denying contents are given freedom to promote content on numerous platforms. Jewish content creators are harassed online for whatever content they post. Once again, this proves that the new battleground for anti-Semitism is online. There is rarely a filter, and we insist that one needs to be applied. According to the ADL, anti-Semitic social posts were not taken down in 80% of the cases. Some platforms do not even have protocols for anti-Semitism, with TikTok, the newest one, being described as a cesspool for open anti-Semitism without a filter whatsoever. Facebook, Google, Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, and other platforms need to do better. In brief, we have two goals. First, the EGA calls for social media platforms to apply efficient filters against hate and anti-Semitism, alongside the full adoption of the IIHRA definition of anti-Semitism, which should never, ever be compromised by the promise of profits. Second, we encourage individuals to take measure into their own hands through the introduction of the EGA's very own Go Flag Yourself project. Through our close contact with social media platforms such as YouTube, the EGA has been marked as a trusted flagger, meaning that we have more legitimacy when we flag content as discriminatory and anti-Semitic, and the platform will act upon our very concerns. Therefore, we call upon everyone to report problematic content to the EGA through the Go Flag Yourself portal on all types of platforms. Frequent flaggers will be granted a monetary award, which will be donated to charity of their own choosing. Help us clean the arena which poses the biggest danger to minorities and the Jewish people. We have theorized and confirmed that the promotion of online hate manifests itself later on in real-life attacks. Specifically for this reason, we must act. Only by dealing with hate can we be proud again. Let us tackle this issue from the source by working through this project. So go ahead, go flag yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ethan. Thank you all very, very much for your interesting and commitments. And we wish you a pleasant evening, and we go to our last event before the dinner. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tal.